I would have thought we are in a much better position now than we were 20 years ago when I was observing what was going on in the Darfur genocide of the early 2000s, because at that time we didn't have that evidence. I think what happened in Al-Fashir in Darfur, as graphically and in a most detailed way documented through satellite imagery provided by an independent body, it clearly established the modus operandi of the RSF. It clearly showed that this was not a random act, but it was part of their military strategy. And so when these things are happening in Kordofan, it is not a surprise, because we know that the overall conflict has now expanded out of Darfur into Kordofan, which is the bridging province between the west of Sudan and getting closer to the capital, Khartoum. So seeing the same techniques being deployed and satellite imagery giving us graphic coverage of the infrastructure that's being attacked, healthcare facilities, schools, kindergartens, water sources, electricity, infrastructure, which is necessary for human survival, shows that this is part of a carefully calculated strategy, which requires command and control, which requires organization, which requires resources and planning. And so the satellite imagery doesn't just tell us about the physical and human impact of what is obviously happening, the underlying policy, the underlying strategy. And that tells us a lot in terms of accountability that might be pursued for the leaders who are directing all this, who are telling the drone operators to go where they are sent. So in terms of accountability, I would have thought we are in a much better position now than we were 20 years ago when I was observing what was going on in the Darfur genocide of the early 2000s, because at that time we didn't have that evidence until we got to the actual locations and were able to collect the physical evidence on the ground. Today, we are able to monitor in real time what is going on, right down to actually monitoring the units of the RSF that are committing these atrocities, almost right down to the level of the vehicles that are deployed, because the imagery is really very, very good nowadays. And that allows us greater chances of holding individuals accountable. Remember, because these are crimes in international criminal law, when accountability has to be proven, it has to be done against individuals. So yes, we can condemn the RSF for what they're doing in terms of their criminal strategy. But in the end, to actually hold people accountable, you'll have to show that a particular commander, a particular soldier, a particular superior officer had given the orders to conduct particular acts against identified people. And this is where satellite imagery is actually excellent in terms of giving us that evidence in real time.